It seems like an interesting story to jump on, Pat. I know you ran against Mr. Young in the 2005 municipal elections, the only one to run against Scott Young, and news breaking today that he pleaded guilty. I'm surprised. I thought he was going to draw this out and hope to get acquitted. I mean, that's what our thought was.
Well, okay. The most interesting thing was the victim statement from Glenn Shaw. That victim statement was only available to Emmett Duncan as Friday of last week.
Right.
After a year.
And who is Emmett Duncan?
Emmett Duncan is the Crown.
The Crown prosecutor.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
The only person who spoke today was the prosecutor.
Now, were you at the trial, sir?
Yes.
Ah, well, of course you were.
Richard Peck will have his half day on the 5th of June.
Gotcha.
Okay. Where, according to Emmett Duncan, he is going to ask for absolute discharge.
Now, what would the basis from that be? I mean, I thought that he pleaded guilty to a crime.
Yes. He pleaded guilty to 3 crimes. Assault on Colleen Preston, assault on Glenn Shaw, and breach of condition.
So why would he be asking for a discharge?
In my opinion?
Yes.
So that what Emmett Duncan has proposed seems reasonable by comparison.
Elaborate.
Well, having sat there, what I saw was Emmett Duncan did an excellent job of defending Scott Young. I mean, he talked about Scott Young's service to the community. He talked about Scott Young's young son. He talked about Scott Young's rehabilitation. Well, it didn't sound to me like he was too enthusiastic to prosecute Scott Young.
Really?
Really.
And this is the prosecutor who's saying all this?
Yes.
I don't know what to say, because I would have thought they would have wanted to set an example that mayors of communities shouldn't, beat people up.
They shouldn't beat people up in their own communities. And he went over to Coquitlam and beat somebody, yeah. So that changes things entirely.
Maybe that makes it better then.
Yes. This is intercity.
So you think
this is a hand of friendship across borders.
you think that the prosecutor, Mr. Duncan, is going to just suggest that we should just forget about the whole thing?
No. But what he's suggesting is some kind of community incarceration.
Okay, well, that's just not going to fly well with Port Coquitlam voters.
You mean they're paying some attention? I haven't noticed them paying attention.
Well, I assume they're going to read the newspapers when they come out this week.
Well, I don't think that the newspapers will say Emmett Duncan does a fine job defending Scott Young. I think instead they will talk about his supposed aggravating circumstances, not the mitigating circumstances.
What is the name of Scott Young's defense lawyer?
Richard Peck.
Richard Peck. And he didn't say anything today at all.
Well, he said a few things. He had no objection. For instance, they proposed a sample of Scott Young's DNA. They didn't say why, and Peck said he had no objection to that.
Okay.
But why they want Scott Young's DNA, whether they are collecting a data bank of weird people's DNA or what's going on, I don't know, but they'd like a sample of it.
That's strange.
What I don't think it's for is do a match from what was found at the Pixton farm.
Right. No,
I don't think that's why they want
No, I don't think so either. Did Scott Young make any statements to the press today?
No.
No, he didn't say anything at all. Do you think he's going to step down as mayor?
No.
Even though he pleaded guilty to committing a crime?
They haven't given him a criminal record yet.
But he pleaded guilty.
Yeah, he pleaded guilty.
So isn't the onus on him then to say, okay, now that I'm a criminal, I should probably step down as mayor of Port Coquitlam?
I think he has to have a criminal conviction before he is forced to step down. Otherwise, it's entirely up to him whether he wishes to resign or not.
And you think he would actually stay as mayor?
I don't see any reason why he won't. He's hung on for a year. He's done favors for his friends. The deal, whatever it was, that's taken a year to negotiate, went well. I saw the smile on his face when we went in at 4 o'clock to fix the next date. I saw that smile and I knew Scott Young's not playing anything. And who's going to make it? We're going to make him, or Bowen, or Penner?
I don't know. I mean, you would assume, we talked about this before, right after his arrest, the councillors and the city council came out and said, well, we're going to do whatever we can to get him removed from office, and then all of a sudden they were quiet.
Well, you know what my take on that was. The luncheon took place between Scott Young and Tony Chung. Tony Chung went into City Hall and he told the boys, Scott Young's coming back. They said, oh, we'll have to ask him to resign. May we ask him to resign? So he said, I'll ask Scott if that's all right. So they went in to the office and they said, we have something to ask you. And Scott Young said the answer is no, and that was the end of it.
Yes.
They fell over each other backing out of the office.
Yes, there have been allegations of that luncheon made before. Did you get a chance to hear the 911 call?
Yes.
And what were your thoughts on that?
I thought he said something about wanting to kill him.
Something like that, yes.
That's what I understood. He had the rope.
Yes,
now,
ropes in his pocket.
He supposedly did not drive to her place. What else he had in his pocket was not a wallet, but his driver's license, photo ID. My guess, he had intention to murder her and kill himself.
You think maybe there was more than just beating him up then?
I think he expected to find her alone. He had to work himself up to burst in on Glenn Shaw. What she said is she'd seen him drunk, and he wasn't drunk. He was high on something.
So you think it was the prelude to a murder-suicide?
That's what I think, yeah.
Otherwise, why else would he have the... Interesting theory. I haven't heard that one made before, but you're saying maybe the evidence that we're starting to hear now, finally, we're starting to put some of the pieces together.
Yeah. But...
who can say?
What Emmett Duncan said is, who knows what's in Scott Young's mind? And my attitude to that is, what mind?
Well, I guess what this really does is really going to put an interesting spin on how City Council is going to react now that he's pled guilty. That's going to be a decision. And the judge has to make a decision in sentencing. Is he going to listen to what the Crown suggests, or will he just go ahead and impose some sort of his own sentence?
Well, it wasn't Scott Young's judge that swore him in. There was a different judge, a female judge. Not from Port Coquitlam. They brought in a judge from outside.
Is that pertinent for some reason?
Well, it increases Scott Young's chances of getting it in the neck. Yes, it does. She may not take Emmett Duncan's interpretation. He talked about aggravation. She might decide that that door is open, and she gives him everything on double assault and breach of condition. In which case, we won't have to talk about Scott Young's resigning. He will be unavailable.
I guess that's a good point. You don't think that the community of Port Coquitlam is going to be too concerned about this story, and I guess you kind of think they're all going to be apathetic about the whole situation.
Why should they be other than apathetic? I mean, isn't that Port Coquitlam?